Hello, Business 635 students. This is Professor Hassey again for one of the final times speaking live and in color from Business Finance Central in Claremont, California. Today we're updating week number 9 and just talking a little bit about the big picture of strategy and financial resources using alternative resources to fund capital projects. But first, remember, you're working on your electrics case, and I have not forgot you. I'm going to have a separate video tomorrow on Saturday, Saturday, which will be posted to our Blackboard site, which will concentrate on the risk analysis portion of the electrics case. The risk analysis portion, scenario and sensitivity. A couple little differences in that analysis from the case number 3 that we went over last Sunday in our review session. I hope all of you had a chance to review that review session. I'm sure it can help you in doing your electrics case. Also, I will be posting case number 4 grades either Friday, tomorrow, or Saturday, maybe some on Friday, some on Saturday. So look for the solutions and that grade. Remember, as I indicated at the beginning of this week, we have 40% of our grade still to be determined in this class. Case number 4 is 15%. Then we have the 20% for the electrics case, which I guess, as I've said before, is basically like a final examination. And then we have 5% of additional class participation, my interpretation of your engagement and focus in the class over the last 10 weeks. But before we finish up our video for today and lead into our risk analysis video on Saturday, first, I want to talk about strategic policy, strategic decisions involved with financial resources. And this is a nice little spreadsheet diagram talking about the various 4 chapters at the end of our text that we've been talking about: leasing, public and private financing, mergers and acquisitions, and bankruptcies. These are the alternative sources of capital to invest in. And the strategies involved in all types of financial decisions in regards to capital investment have to do around value, in other words, dollars. Are you returning cash flow and profitability? And the opportunity of the strategy. Will it give you a leg up in the market? Will it help you aid in your competition? Will it help the employees earn more value in your company? Will the vendors succeed as your business grows? Your vendors naturally will succeed. And are you putting together an efficient, quality product for your customers? You acquire capital to satisfy these 2 sectors of strategy: making money and providing opportunity. I think almost you could call that opportunity cost. Are we helping other segments besides just the almighty dollar in bringing value and return to all the entities that are dependent on the operation of our company? And leasing, public and private financing, mergers and acquisitions, and bankruptcy are all a way of finding additional sources, but beyond the normal means of debt, equity, and profits. And so that's one of the important parts of this class as we wrap it up these next couple weeks. We look at a case like electrics that's trying to determine the ways of providing better opportunity in their market, in competition, providing a better product that's more suited to the sustainable times that we live in. And at the same time, your analysis is trying to indicate which product is going to provide the greatest value at the minimal risk. That's part of your analysis. And if we were doing this in the real world, we might be using alternative resources to fund that $17 million investment in the electrics case. We might be leasing assets instead of purchasing to provide for our products. We might be going outside and finding private financing, like the people who go on Shark Tank to get investment by individual private investors. We might issue a new stock issuance, brand new stock in the market to fund this particular project. One of the ways that Comcast has acquired a variety of different cable systems over the last 10 years is by having stock offerings to fund those investments in new cable operations. Or you can merge and acquire other companies. You can try to save on the economies of scale by merging operations into one, thus being able to part with or lay off other types of costs because of those economies of scale of merging or acquiring. The merging of companies, the acquisition of companies allows a company to obtain new resources and new capital, at the same time added debt, but also maybe more cost efficiency in their operation. 4 key types of mergers and acquisitions: horizontal, vertical, conglomerate, and congeneric. Horizontal merger is with a merger of acquiring like companies like yours, or merging with like companies like yours. You make the same products, let's combine, we'll do better. A vertical merger is buying up suppliers, buying up your supply chain. I bet you a lot of companies these days in today's markets wish they owned their vendors instead of depending on the supply chains of India and China with the coronavirus going on. It's disrupting supply chains, thus companies don't have the supplies or the materials to build their products. Conglomerate mergers or acquisitions is when you just buy up different companies that with no reasonable reason why you're doing that. As far as like companies, you're just buying up companies to get bigger. By getting bigger, your money becomes cheaper. By increasing the asset value of the company, more banks will give you money because you have more assets as collateral. Your money might be cheaper. And congenerative mergers is buying up like companies, basically like horizontal, but at the same time, you're buying them up or taking them over is for the sole purpose of just getting the product. The main reason for the merger is just to acquire a product. An example of that would be many years ago, Microsoft acquired a company called WordPerfect. WordPerfect was one of the first companies to develop software for word processing. Microsoft needed a word processing document for their soon-to-be Office mix of systems. So they bought WordPerfect and now called it Word as it's part of your Office 365 package. That's an example of a congenerative acquisition or merger. And then the final, perhaps more drastic way of funding capital is to reorganize. Chapter 11, or the final phase, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the liquidation of your firm to cash out and get money back to the investors and no longer cease work in your company. So reorganization is like a timeout to reorganize, get rid of bad assets, reorganize and restructure the debt position of a company and come out a leaner and meaner machine, just like General Motors has done in the last few years. Chapter 7 is more like liquidation. Circuit City a few years ago, an Orange County company which was quite prevalent in the competition with the Best Buys and the Costco's of the world, Circuit City had a liquidation. They found that their company business model was no longer effective in their industry. So again, all these 4 ways are different ways of acquiring capital to produce greater return and to produce opportunity in the market, in your competition, for employees, for vendors, and customers. A very important concept in this last few weeks of the class, which you'll use in your 695 final session or final class in your MBA program. You'll take all these into account in the case study you'll be doing in that 695 class. So something to remember, something to keep handy for future classes, and something to understand if many of you will work for companies that find ways of finding alternative resources like these methods. It'll be a benefit for you to understand them as they're transpiring at your companies or in your career. So in a couple days on Saturday, I will have a risk analysis video of the electrics case, which I'm sure will help some of you. And we'll move forward into our final week next week and complete our course. Look for those case number 4 grades coming up. And I thank you for your attention. 1 week to go, and then you have had enough of Professor Hasse and managing financial resources. So adios, everyone. Have a good Thursday evening, and we'll see you all in a few days. Bye-bye.